top three, how do you continue making the argument that he is the candidate who can beat President Trump come November?
I mean, Donald Trump, and I would also say Iowa Senator Joni Ernst, have been making that case for us already. President Trump has entangled himself, gotten himself impeached by the House of Representatives, currently in a trial in the United States Senate, all because it seems as though he was afraid of seeing Vice President Biden at the ballot box in November. He has put his presidency, it currently hangs in the balance because he tried to get another foreign entity, another foreign ally to get dirt on Vice President Biden. So look, we think we'll be strong here. Our internal data shows that it's very, very close. We've always thought it would be close. But we've said from the beginning, Iowa is the beginning, not the end. And we intend to take this thing all the way through the first floor to Super Tuesday and beyond to the convention.
Symone Sanders, we will leave it there. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
She is a senior advisor to Joe Biden, Democratic candidate for president.
Nearly 200 people remain quarantined at an air base in Southern California following the return from the epicenter of the coronavirus outbreak in China. One child in the group was taken to a nearby hospital with a fever and is being evaluated. The quarantine is just one of the measures the U.S. has taken to try to limit the spread of the virus. NPR's Allison Aubrey reports on a new NPR PBS NewsHour Marist poll, which finds the majority of Americans say U.S. officials are doing enough to contain the virus.
2/3 of Americans say the coronavirus poses a real threat and has not been blown out of proportion. And though many say they are concerned about the potential spread within the U.S., most Americans say they're not very concerned that the virus will spread in their own community. Here's Lee Miringoff, the director of the Marist Institute for Public Opinion.
People are worried, watchful, but right now a majority of Americans don't see this as something that is necessarily going to strike here. I think that's a reaction to the fact that so far it's been very limited.
The only confirmed cases in the U.S. so far have been who returned from the Wuhan region or been in close contact with someone who had. Older Americans are more likely to report infected with the virus to their community, and that's understandable during month 3 of she's Phoenix. She points out older people are generally more vulnerable to respiratory infections, and the average age of the first cases reported in China was about 60.
We're not concerned about it, but we're not to the point where we personally feel like we would be involved.
She's reassured that there have been no deaths in the U.S. She says if the virus is here, she and her husband have lived through prior pandemics. Back in the early 1970s, they got Hong Kong responsible for the 1968 flu pandemic.
My husband was lucky that he was sick for a week. I was only sick for 2 days.
Joya says some people in her peer group do seem overly anxious about the coronavirus, so she tells them to do the same thing they do to prevent the spread. Our poll also asked people whether U.S. officials were doing enough to prevent the spread of the virus here, and more than 60% of Americans said yes, officials are doing enough. Representative Fausto Fernandez, 36 and lives in Massachusetts, says Ellen is complicated.
I think it's a great idea to keep the public safe.
But he says he is concerned that the travel restrictions put in place by the Trump administration may be overly broad.
I just hope that it's not used for something else other than for the good of the people.
He says the only goal should be to prevent the spread of the virus. And
Women had a very good year at the Oscars 10 years ago. Catherine Bigelow became the first woman ever to win Best Director, and her film, The Hurt Locker, won Best Picture. There has been some backsliding since then, which makes a proposal our critic Bob Mondello made a month before that year's Oscar telecast seem worth another listen. Here it is, as it aired in 2010.
As long as we're having categories with 10 nominees, I know how the Academy can save time, eliminate 2 accepted speeches, and strike a blow against sexism all in one fell swoop. Just make the Oscars gender neutral. Nobody says Best Director and Best Directress, or Best Editor and Best Editress. So why Best Actor and Best Actress? Combine them.
respect them.
I'm bad black. When I die, the tombstone will have my real name on it. Until then, I'm just gonna stay bad.
Now, I can just hear the objections to combining categories. Men get all the roles, they're higher paid, their pictures have bigger budgets, and let me concede most of that, but note that it's new. I'm guessing the Motion Picture Academy's original logic for separating the acting awards by gender was that if they hadn't, in the 1920s and 30s, Joan Crawford and Greta Garbo would have walked off with all the trophies. Take 1935. It was such a good year for the likes of Bette Davis, Katharine Hepburn, Merle Oberon, and Claudette Colbert that they had to add a 6th slot in the Best Actress category. The men, meanwhile, couldn't even field a full slate. Only 4 nominees, and the 3 who didn't win all came from one picture, Mutiny on the Bounty.
You're sending me to my doom, eh? I live to see you, all of you, hanging from the highest yard arm in the British fleet.
Who knows what they'd have done if the Bounty hadn't sailed until the following year. Yes, of course, the game has changed since then, but in a way that could actually work against men at Oscar time. Men monopolize blockbusters, which never win acting awards. You want that neutered gold statue these days, you have to play in what used to be called women's pictures, something more touchy-feely. Besides, acting's not like a shot put competition. Body mass and physical strength don't give men an advantage when it comes to emoting effectively. I mean, look at this year's supporting actor nominees. No disrespect to Matt Damon's rugby playing, or Woody Harrelson's crying, Christopher Plummer's erudite dithering, or the respective killing styles of Stanley Tucci and Christoph Waltz, but not one of those guys would stand a chance if he had to compete with Monique's ferociously manipulative mom.
So those things that she told you I did to her, who else was gonna love me? Who was gonna make me feel good?
The Academy will almost certainly make Monique feel good on Oscar night, and that would be no less true if she were competing with the boys. I'm Bob Mandela.
The winner? A proposal for genderless acting Oscars from 2010.
Standing small beside the victory. That's her destiny.
You're listening to All Things Considered.
Fighting the spread of coronavirus takes global teamwork, but cooperation between 2 key players remains elusive.
Right now, the U.S.-China relationship is suffering from a deep deficit of trust.
The White House reportedly wants more transparency from China about its containment efforts. The latest details on this story in 20 minutes on WHYY's All Things Considered.
Supporting WHYY, Philadelphia Theater Company, presenting the Philadelphia premiere of Everything is Wonderful, February 14th through March 8th. An Amish family must hold on to their faith after a stranger shatters their peaceful existence and their estranged daughter returns, cracking open the family's secret history. Everything is Wonderful is a searing drama about healing and forgiveness. For tickets, philatheaterco.org or 215-985-0420. And Cabrini University. Located in Radnor, PA, Cabrini University's Bachelor of Science in Nursing offers students a curriculum focused on health equity, paired with Cabrini's Education of the Heart mission, dedicated to academic excellence, leadership, and social advocacy. Cabrini's nursing program equips students with the tools and resources to holistically care for every patient. Learn more at cabrini.edu/WHYY. cabrini.edu/WHYY.
The coronavirus outbreak has put tens of millions of people in central China on lockdown, but people across the rest of China are also feeling the impact. In Shanghai, face masks are sold out. Parents are waiting to hear when their kids can go back to school, and no one knows how long the emergency will last. Our story from Shanghai on The World.
This evening from 8 to 9 on WHYY.
Support for NPR comes from this station and from Fidelity Wealth Management, where advisors work with their clients to develop flexible investment strategies that can evolve as their needs change. Learn more at fidelity.com/wealth. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC. And from Avalara, tax automation for businesses of all sizes, designed to simplify sales tax compliance with real-time rates and automatic filing. Learn more at Avalara, AVALARA.com.
From NPR News, this is All Things Considered. I'm Mary Louise Kelly.
And I'm Audie Cornish, and the apology from Shadow Incorporated begins. We sincerely regret the delay. Shadow is behind the smartphone app that caused reporting problems for Iowa Democratic Party caucuses. It wreaked chaos for caucus chairs like Holly Christine Brown, the Asian Pacific Islander caucus chair. As she told our Morning Edition host, there wasn't much training.
I got access to the app on Friday evening, and we were just given access to the app and told, play around in there a little bit, and that was about as much training as we got.
Joining me via Skype to talk about cybersecurity and elections is Betsy Cooper with the Aspen Institute. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
So what were the questions people had going in for the makers of this app, which at first I gather people didn't even know who it was?
Right. So we were actually trying to investigate this in January, and we couldn't get any information whatsoever about who was making the app or how it had been tested. I think some of the questions were, will the app work? Clearly not as expected. Do people know how to use it? Did they get adequate training in advance? Does it do the numerical calculations correctly? And then, of course, is it secure? Will it be susceptible to cyber attacks?
We know that the Iowa State Party has said, look, this isn't a hack. Is it too soon for them to say something like that? I mean, as someone who works in cybersecurity, what do you make of the explanation so far?
I mean, I would be quite skeptical of knowing for sure that there was no hack. I'm sure that they are investigating that deeply, and, they may be able to identify the cause. We don't have that full information yet. But I do believe that there are lots of different reasons someone could try to access the app. It could be to collect information. It could be for intelligence gathering. So it would be very hard to know at this early stage whether there was any unauthorized access on the back end.
And we said for now, they're saying, look, we just had problems with how it was working. I don't know if you know anything about Shadow, but is there a scenario where this could have worked?
So I think that there's definitely the possibility of using online tools to enable and facilitate elections, but in this case, the testing wasn't sufficient. They clearly had not done sufficient testing to determine even that the numbers would be calculated correctly. And so the only thing that saves the situation is that they had paper backups ready in order to be able to actually verify the votes. This could have been an even bigger disaster if those paper backups were not available.
Nevada says they are not going to use it for their caucuses. Does that make sense? I mean, for people to back away from this kind of technology altogether?
I don't think we should say never, but I do think in this particular case, Nevada is making a smart decision. Clearly, the app is not ready for prime time, and so let's only go through this once in this election cycle.
In their apology, they also apologized for the uncertainty vote it's caused to candidates, their campaigns, and Democratic caucus goers. What else is on your mind regarding the 2020 elections?
Well, obviously there are a number of states that don't have paper backups, and so that is deeply disconcerting, especially now that we've seen that it may not be just due to hacks that we should be concerned, but just due to user error and not having the app set up correctly. I think we also need to be aware of sort of the cybersecurity ramifications more broadly in our elections. Clearly, there are lots of people who care deeply about influencing the way that our elections are working, and this is just a very early sign that it's not going to necessarily be smooth throughout the entire process.